In my cover memorandum, what I did was, I divided this project area into 4 areas. And as I mentioned in the first paragraph, that I did, on a recommendation of you folks, I did meet with Mr. Steve Ivis of Ivis Environmental about 10 days ago. And we spent about an hour at the area and all that. So if you would look at the next page, there's a map that divides the project area into 4 areas. Area 1, Area 2, 3, 4. The next page, the second photo, is of Area 1. And in my narrative, I say the area has grown to the extent that it now harbors wildlife, acts as a natural rain garden, and really does not require any assistance or remedial care. In other words, just leave it alone.
Okay, and that was part of the area where you wanted to just put rocks down on top of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this is better.
So, and from the time I saw you folks, within 2 weeks, that whole thing was grown up. I mean, it was just unbelievable, the growth that occurred. And so, so anyway, that being said.
And that's right along the dam.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, Area 2, this is the area that's really going to be in question. If you go to the next next photo. This is taken from the bridge and looking westward. And this is the area that, as Mr. Ivis was pointing out to me, he was just pointing out one species after another, and I, to be honest with you, it just went over my head. I couldn't fathom all the things that he was talking about, but he made his point. And like I mentioned here in my narrative, it's full of invasive species. The town has 2 alternatives. One, do nothing, just let it grow as it is right now. 2 is to hire specialists to remove all the invasive species at a fairly substantial cost to the town and replace that vegetation with non-invasive greenery. And that would be something that if we chose to go that path, I'd be back in front of you folks again with that. And also, there was some concern about trees that were cut down. Whether they were elm or oak or, I don't know. I don't even know who to believe. One side says this and the other side says another. I mean, there could have been palm trees there as far as I know. So anyway, so right at this particular point, we're just going to leave Area 2 alone.
Is this where the trees were cut down in Area 2 right here?
Somewhere in that area. It's hard to say because now you can't find the stumps because of everything that's been growing up the last 2 months or so. And so while we're in that area, the next photo of Area 2 is a shot south, looking north towards the bridge. And what I want to point or ask the commission is that there's a lot of vegetation that is creeping onto West Elm Street. And it's starting to make visibility pretty difficult for any cars that are exiting the parking lot. So what we'd like to do is just trim back some of those bushes so that people can see traffic coming southbound on West Elm Street as they cross the bridge.
So this is looking into Area 3 almost, onto the road almost?
Well, it's
Right.
actually looking at from Area 3 towards the bridge. So
Okay.
we're kind of looking through Area 2.
Okay.
So the river is on the other side of this vegetation that you see in front of you.
I mean, I don't really have a problem with, maintenance and pruning of vegetation,
Yeah, that's all allowed. Yeah. No, I go there to go in the trails, and I think when you're in that parking area, it's almost like the parking area should be a one-way loop, and you're coming back out. But even there, as you're coming out the other side, there's vegetation.
Right,
and
exactly.
People are coming around. So
Right.
I think trying to clear it up so people can see without going down into the river and
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
tearing stuff out. My concern would be, and I could talk to Steve about this, but what did he say about if you leave number 2 alone, invasive species, seems to me like some of them are gonna end up over and start to take over area 1. That's part of it.
Well, I think so, and I think that that's something that, they're gonna have to, really make a serious decision on, because he was pointing out to me all kinds of species that were there, and it would just continually grow. So, but I think that this is something that we would have to bring somebody in, if it's Steve or someone, and he didn't recommend anybody, but to bring somebody in that specializes in removing that kind of stuff. And so, we would need to, I need to come up, with a dollar figure, and then I would think I'd be back in front of you folks,
Okay.
with that plan. And
Yeah.
also with Area 2, we would be in a situation where we would try to replace some of the trees. Obviously, after maybe we got rid of all the invasive vegetation, then anything that we would plant back in there would be some of the trees that were taken down. But that would be definitely something that, the town would be in front of the commission in the future on that particular thing.
I don't think
So
we'd have a problem with, trees being replaced that had been cut down. I would hate to see them get choked out by invasive species
Oh, sure.
after they're put in the ground.
I mean, if the commission really thinks that it would be prudent for the town to go ahead and remove that, then we would definitely go forward in that. And,
Well, I think if you don't do it, you're gonna end up having to do it in a couple of years for areas 2 and 1. And 1 looks pretty good now. Let me see that picture.
Yeah, it was just amazing from the time I saw you folks last. Within a week or 2 later, it was incredibly grown up.
Yeah, my recollection of the original thought was that, oh, there's water seeping out here, we just want to get everything out of the way and throw a bunch of rocks down, and that kind of appalled me. But this is, some of that water that's seeping through is helping to support.
Oh, absolutely.
That.
When you stand there, you can literally see the water in the soil coming from, the dam area, and, pardon the pun, dam area, but, going into the stream at that point, right through all that vegetation that you see in the photo for Area 1. And then Area 3 is the area just upland from Area 2. And this is, if you look on the very first map, like I said, it's upland from Area 2. And this is an area that we've been cutting. And Steve mentioned that he thought it was doing a great job, because he said that if you keep cutting it for a couple of years, keeping it trimmed, that it might get rid of some of the invasive species that were growing there. That, we would eventually get rid of all the roots, that were growing there.
And it's in Area 3 where you wanted to put a picnic table or something, wasn't that?
Yeah,
a
pretty much,
plan?
we're gonna try to replace tables where they currently are, and there's none right there. We may try to do that, but, I was gonna wait until after this conversation, and then we would make a determination as well, we probably would replace definitely the tables that are there now, just with newer ones, because some of them are getting old.
This area here, to Area 3 into Area 4, looks like a nice parkish-like area, which I think is just...
Yeah, and going to Area 4, Steve and I were talking about that, and right now, where you see those bale lines in that last photo, there was some loam that was placed by the DPW some time ago, and he thought that, and the plan is to hydro-seed that area, and that would require a notice of intent with the town's Conservation Commission. to be able to do that, and we want to do that in September. So I probably would file an application for a notice of intent with our local conservation commission next month in August. Would I need to come in front of you folks if we're going to do that in Area 4?
I don't know if you would for seeding, would you?
I think that's, on that, one thing that you have to consider on putting loom down there in September is that it's your migration of the fish.
Well, it's already there. So
Right.
the only thing we would do is.
We just hide to see the loam.
Seed that long, so it actually wouldn't,
So, yeah.
so it wouldn't wash off.
Yeah, so it won't wash off. But the stuff that was put there originally did wash off.
Right.
And go in, but, so as long as that was firm or whatever the hydroseeding was, it would stick and stay. That probably wouldn't be a bad idea, but to make that right.
It would help any future runoff as well.
I think just to keep us informed on what's going on there. I mean, it's unusual to have, the work that you're doing is all right inside of 100 feet, which generally that's a whole plan. And a lot of this was, a lot of stuff that was all cleared out before the most recent clearing out. It's just, it's in a different state than a lot of places along the river within 100 feet of the river itself. So I think we should be aware of what's happening. But I think it's great. I commend you for having Steve Ivers come out and give you a rundown, because he's very knowledgeable.
Yeah, that was very informative hour spending walking the property and see. So back to Area 4, would the commission want a report on that, or should I just file a notice of intent with our local conservation commission and go from there? Or I'll be happy to, come back or
I would
give
say,
a report to.
I would say file a notice of intent with them, and, we'd like to know, what they have to say about it after that. If you want to, send us the minutes or a letter or something like that after, or.
The minutes are published online.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not generally fighting it out with.
No, I wouldn't think so. I was just wondering if
They
they
have
had any other issues that,
yeah.
we should be made aware of.
So Ed, you did say the loam is already been, DPW placed that loam there at some point?
Yes.
Okay, because because I'm learning things every time something new comes in front of us, you go, see me flipping through saying, what does it say, what does it say? It does say a prohibited use is dumping in the corridor of any soil, loam, or peat, sand, gravel, et cetera, et cetera. But, I'm definitely agreeing with the board that this is great. What you're doing I think is really great. But, so maybe it's just not to add any more, or,
Right, you wouldn't be able
it's already
to
there.
add.
Maybe, but, I don't know how you get to hydroseed something. It's a W under prohibited uses, so I just wouldn't want.
We just like to be kept on the
Yeah.
loop, on anything within 100 feet
Just wouldn't
in
want anybody to
particular.
come back
And
at
it
it.
felt like, whoa, wait a minute.
Well, definitely since
Mow
Area
down.
2 is the big
Right.
problem area,
Yeah.
folks definitely will be looking at, because we're going to really have to make that concerted effort to get rid of the invasive species and come back to you folks with a plan. All right, we're going to get rid of that stuff, and this is what we're going to put back.
Okay.
Replace it
No,
with-
we'd like to see that,
Sure.
Right.
That'd be nice.
Anyone else?
I think the only other thing is that on the plan here, when it indicates the different areas, 2 kind of goes almost all the way down to the water. What the complaint was with the Division of Marine Fisheries and a lot of the people, or some of the people that live in the area, and the complaints that I heard about personally, was that it was closer to the water that the big trees were cut down.
Right.
And I think that's why Ed put on here that, to replace the trees on a 2-to-1 basis, but, so it's, if some trees were replaced in where those trees were cut down, I think he'd be in good shape myself. the other stuff that's up here is all extra work that would make it look better, that would help it. But personally, myself, I would like to see a couple of trees put back where some of these trees were
So,
cut down.
yeah, something that would grow.
Because they were good size trees that were removed out of there, so. And I think that's what the complaint of some of the people would be, is that they clear cut it down to the water. And
Who's they? Who did it?
so, what's
Yeah,
that?
Who was the
down
they?
that
Who's the
cement
they?
Oh, the DPW
Oh,
did it.
okey-dokey.
And conservation
And then
approved it.
put the loam there.
Yeah, we got a butter.
But it's,
Right.
it's just the plan doesn't go all the way to the water, and that was, the complaint was that the trees were cut all the way to the water.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's, so it probably would be a good idea to do that.
So would it be the recommendation of the commission that we plant the trees now, or come back with a plan to get rid of the invasive species and then plant the trees?
I mean,
Yeah.
I would say, you know, a botanist would have a better idea of what could grow there. I mean,
Right.
You might be able to find the stumps,
you know,
locate those trees where they were.
what could grow there with the
Yeah, I
invasives,
pointed one
or
out to Steve, and he goes, that's 3 years old.
Yeah.
So that didn't just happen, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, have something to
Hi.
say? Yeah, come on up.
I recommend Conservation Commission will go to the table.
Yeah, sure. Come on up. So I can hear you better.
Hi.
Hi.
I've been looking at the site myself, and my opinion is that on the Hanover side, there's really no upper canopy. It's mowed right to the water. And we were lucky enough to have beautiful elm trees, and they are elm trees. And the upper canopy is very important over water.
Oh, that's,
And elm trees actually bud out first in the season, bringing insects for the flycatchers and the dead trees they create for the woodpeckers. And then the real thing is the kingfishers get to live in them right on the water. So by taking out these trees, you're stopping the natural progression of a tree growing and dying, which you can see along that water. There's dead trees and living trees. As you know, dead trees aren't really dead. The kingfishers come in. The drape on an elm tree allows for the orioles to come in, and they're very common, that you have an upper canopy over water. And it's also the only under canopy, providing shade for other species there, that's gone. I mean, you can see it's gone. We have some pictures, but this was a professional tree person, and his opinion is very much the same. And he viewed the trees. This is to verify that on April 23rd, 2017, I did witness and inspect 6 American elm trees, stumps at the Lovett's Ford Park. Central site along river's edge, near edge of dam, base of dam. They're approximately 7 inches DBH and stood approximately 30 feet high, providing essential upper canopy structure, and all 6 appeared to be healthy living tissue and were providing the only understory coverage in the area. It is my professional opinion that these trees were on an important part of the environment and should be replaced to a standard of not less than 3-to-1. Mr. Eccleston requests the same as I do, that you respect the upper canopy around a river's edge. These trees were not 2 inches wide, 3 inches wide. I inspected them myself. They were at least 6 inches. And if you look in the picture, this upper canopy is gone. The shade under it is gone. The only way to put that back is to put trees back. They were right on the edge of the water. Elm trees usually come off a stump and they're gonna die in a few years. These were actually seeded elms from seeds. And what you have growing off the stump is not a true tree. It's a sucker. It will never have the veracity to grow. It will clump up, overstrain the stump, and not be a real tree ever. It'll just be a bush. So I would like to ask each member personally to help us to replace the missing canopy. For the birds need it, the bees need it, the kingfisher needs the dead trees, And it's an ecosystem that was there and totally in health and didn't need to be cut. Didn't serve any purpose to cut those trees.
What species
Elm, American elm.
is what you'd recommend?
They absolutely
be
are
planted
American
at?
elms. And
No, that you would say to be planted now.
They drape. They have the right canopy for over a river. And what's really good is the Orioles love them. They literally love drapes over the water.
So you're asking that in Area 2, that instead of waiting to do, getting rid of the
Yeah.
invasive species, you would like to
Let me see what area
see,
you're looking at. I'm talking about
Sure.
the rain garden area where most of the trees are
Right
missing.
along the water.
to plant the trees sooner than later.
Area 4, touching 2, starting just a bit into 2, between 3 and 4. The area that the trees were cut in,
They were cut from 4, Area 4?
right along Area
Okay.
4 and up into 2.
Okay.
The
Let's
stumps
take a
are still
look.
very visible.
Okay.
This afternoon, they're fine.
Is that something the town would look into, planting some elms? Yeah.
Conservation Commission's got an inventory of trees that they have
Okay,
from
These are
a,
some of the trees.
I
here
see.
that we cut.
the stumps, okay.
from the town forest being, 7 acres being cleared for.
If that's something that would be, once they get the invasive species under control, and if they could plant the elms in there, I mean, I think that would be a great idea.
Scott Clavin had actually suggested, when we were going to buy trees for the ballpark, that they have a great resistant American elm tree out of a vendor of Canada. He brought that up himself. We're talking about the ball field replacing trees. There was a very good vendor that had very good elm trees. He liked elm trees, he said.
So Area 4, roughly how many trees were in that area? I mean,
6
Six.
living trees, yes.
In
So-
Area 4.
Yeah, I mean, so.
How many in Area 2?
I didn't count the ones up on the ledge. There were probably 2 or 3 smaller trees taken, but the canopy is still intact because there's one elm tree they left, and they left a European red swamp maple, the biggest tree standing down too. But the smaller tree beside it is an elm tree. You can see the size of it is roughly 6, 8, 10 inches and 30 feet
Okay,
tall. That's
so
what they're taking out.
They're saying here, near Area 4, notice of intent. So maybe notice of intent for Area 4. We want to do hydroseeding, maybe there should be a row of trees at the top of the marshy part right now, and then the hydroseeding above that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see if you have something like that on a plan, that sounds good.
So what I'm gathering from the commission is that you think that it would probably be prudent for the town to go ahead and get rid of the invasive species first.
I would
That
guess
doesn't matter, I mean, I think getting the elms in is probably
more important
a
almost.
bigger thing.
Because
Some of
they
them are
may
not where it's invasive
they may
anyway.
even
Especially in 4.
slow down any of the invasive species growth if there's some
Right.
height to them, and, they can, if the invasive species continue to be a problem, then I think it's something the town might look at down the road. But I think if you get the trees in, it may actually slow the growth of the, I don't know exactly what invasive species down, the poison ivies and things like that, but they need sunlight, and, if there's something above them
Disturbed soil, yeah.
choking out their, nutrients, and
Especially in Area 4, you're not even talking about removing
Right.
invasive
So-
species, so that's an
There
easy
really
area
were
to
no
do.
invasive species
Right.
that I could see
Where
in
2
that
you
area.
were.
I don't know why it was cut like it
Yeah.
was.
so.
Okay.
Well, Area 1 looks pretty good, but I'd say right above that Area 1, the front edge of Area 4, that would be a good place to put in some trees.
Right.
And
Most of the
then
water
do
is
your
possible.
hydro
Right.
seeding above it.
The trees were cut right at the water's edge, which is where an essential canopy
Needs to be.
shades the water for the fish and shades it for other insects and shades out other species that'll take their nutrients.
I'd
But
say
it had
if-
a beautiful upper canopy. I mean, it really did. And elm trees are
Shame.
struggling in this part of the country, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you can get 12 of them in there, 2 to 1, that would be great, to see them, if they'd take and grow, that'd be,
And you're saying
and
you
I think,
already
I think it would
have some.
actually,
I think we have to specify the size.
it would actually help
Big.
the park area as well, I mean, the bigger the better,
Big
of
work.
course. I mean, it just depends on what they can get planted down there
So
as
do
well.
we have, and how about Area 1? Were there any trees that came out of Area 1?
There was some, there was some dead trees that were cut in there too.
Yeah.
A lot of dead trees, so I think between the dead and the living and the brush, it just looked like more was cut because it was a pretty thick area all along there.
You don't have to replace the dead ones.
No, but I'm saying that
Right.
because it looked more
Right, I'm
Right,
sure.
because they
than
were
what it
dead.
was, because they were dead and
There's more
because
mass
there was
there.
so much brush in the area down there, that's all.
Is there a time, a window where there's enough time for the tree to take root before the season
This is
begins?
perfect.
Right now, like tomorrow is good.
And what do you have for trees? I mean, what size are
The
they?
town said that, they had maples.
The only trees that I think should go back are American elm trees. That was
Elms are
taken
allowed.
out, and they're struggling species.
Yeah.
And we actually had a great seed bed of them in there. So hopefully they come up again and seed further trees. Scott Glavin knows of a company in Canada that has American-resistant elms. He was going to have us buy them to replace some trees at the ballparks that were taken, and we have a grant to do that. I discussed with him that that would be a great idea, that he likes elm trees. I don't know why he cut elm trees, liking them, but I know he knows what they are, and he has a good source
Always
for
hurt
them.
the ones we love.
So I would think that
Yeah, I don't,
we should follow through with the company he suggested and see what they have for stock. It's a Canadian-based company. Knows a lot about trees.
it's good to know.
We can approve a specific.
So this, so
time.
it sounds like the species is very important
Do it.
also, so, right. And I, not knowing what, I mean, I know trees aren't inexpensive. And the more ornamental they are, obviously, then the more expensive they become, but I'm not sure whether this, then the price tags, towns are always looking, well, tree's a tree.
Not in this
Yeah,
case.
right.
So, yeah, I think if you keep us abreast of,
Yeah, let's get.
and if you can get
planning.
us a, revegetation of what trees and how many in places, that would be great. After you go to conservation with the seeding and stuff like that, and if you can, quicker the better, I guess, on the trees, if you guys can find something and get them in.
Are you in front of conservation soon?
No, I'm gonna deal with those guys.
Is he in front of you, Sue?
2 weeks. I think they're having a meeting next week. They could probably get it on the agenda.
Good.
Well, I don't know if they could get it on the agenda, we don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good luck.
All right.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much
folks.
for your input. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks.